Let's dive right into the topic. Migration for SAP document repositories, consolidation, migration, innovation is the tagline we assigned to this innovative technology webinar. We're looking at the modern SAP archive, efficient SAP archiving, and we will be discussing risk-free migrations. My name is Jochen Hager. I'm a managing partner with SolutionXchg. I've been in the business of document imaging for SAP for about 22 years, and have worked with over 240 different clients in the United States and over 80 clients in Europe in implementing and designing electronic imaging archiving solutions and business process integration solutions for SAP archiving needs. SAP archiving has been around for more than 20 years. In general, customers fall in two categories. They're the ones currently using an SAP archiving solution, and there are the ones who are not yet using an SAP archiving solution. Commonly used products fall into two categories. There are full-blown ECM solutions with SAP connectivity, and there are quick start SAP archiving only products that are significantly more lightweight and more effective and efficiently to operate. Because technology is never at the standstill, systems that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a few years ago now can be purchased for a fraction of the cost just a few years later, and with much better features and less administration. The big question is your company, are you taking advantage of the solutions and everything the market has to offer? Often, various EMC solutions have shortfalls. The solutions are oversized for your actual needs. Company rollout never actually happens. And technology advantage leave 20-year-old architecture behind. Products might not be ready to scale, and as a result, you as an administrator or your company is missing out on significant cost savings. You might not be future ready at all. And as a consequence of all that, there are certain cost disadvantages you might experience with your SAP archive today. What we most often see is a complexity of administration, a multi-tier system that is way too cumbersome to keep running every day with multiple servers, databases, and multiple moving parts. This can be significantly reduced with a more modern, streamlined solution. Large hardware support fees, you don't take advantage of virtualized machines. Your system is still on proprietary hardware that needs to be replaced from time to time, or is actually mired down by hardware maintenance cost that happens to be due every month, every quarter. Same for database maintenance costs. Database maintenance is a significant factor to many of our clients. We're talking about Oracle is the database of choice, or was the database of choice in connection with SAP system. Now everything SAP is moving to HANA. Oracle becomes more of a standalone proprietary database that should not be used anymore, and whose maintenance is a major cost factor in the organization. Also, the maintenance for the existing content management solution. I mentioned before that 10 years ago, solutions were priced at a premium in the imaging and archiving market for SAP. Today, solutions are much lower in price, dedicated service solutions that have the same functionality as the classical Ixos solution that was for sale many years ago before it also that one mushroomed into an Ixos OpenText solution with ECM functionality with it, can now be had for much less maintenance. So transitioning to different solutions, to more modernized solutions, allows you to significantly reduce your annual maintenance payment for your SAP archiving solution. So the challenge is, yes, we understand new systems allow better use and are compliant and function based on today's standards. But in many cases, people are concerned about migration. They don't know how to get from A to B. KGS has developed a migration strategy that is very fast and almost risk-free and can help you significantly minimize the cost of transition as well as the effort of transitioning from one solution to another. Significant cost savings can be realized, and you can reduce or repurpose hardware by going virtual and deploying new solutions on virtual platforms. I want to continue with a case study, a large banking client that we have done work with and performed an extensive archive migration. A little bit of a background, the setting was a large Fortune 5000 banking customer with nationwide business operations. They're in the news right now for less flattering reasons and because of their aggressive sales policies to most of their clients and customers. But they have a solid IT team, and their IT team was in multiple locations. When we were working on the project, we dealt with people in California, on the East Coast, in the central US, multiple locations where they had certain support facilities. They were looking for archive consolidation because they had a failing legacy system that prompted the switch. Also, they were looking for significant synergies due to the consolidation of system. They wanted to eliminate annual maintenance costs for a legacy product. They wanted to consolidate hardware costs, hardware maintenance, operations costs, database costs, storage costs, and overall the total cost of ownership. The task at hand was migrating all valid documents from an Ixos OpenText system and an SAP Content Server legacy archive system to the new corporate standard, which for this particular customer was a FileNet archive. We were selecting an approach with absolutely no end user impact while we were performing the migration, and we managed to stay within time and within budget restriction throughout the project. A quick overview on how the migration project actually works. Your SAP system holds all the information in the so-called link tables, all the information about the necessary keys and link information to a connected archiving solution. In this case, we had link tables in SAP that were connecting to two different source and archiving systems. One was an SAP Content Server, an ailing, outdated content server that hadn't been updated in a long time, and an Ixos OpenText system that was holding a significant amount of imaging objects. The migration strategy deployed by KGS first introduces a KGS migration server, which works as a proxy. And that server is inserted between the source archiving system and the SAP system. It takes, as depicted in this graph, in this graphic, all the calls from SAP, accepts those calls, and then forwards the calls to the source system. In this scenario, everything remains the same from an end user perspective. We are reading, and even depending on the configuration, could still write to the existing source archiving system. Once we are ready and have a target archiving system, which could be a KGS content server for archive or for storage, or could be any SAP ArchiveLink compliant target system. In this particular scenario, we were actually targeting a FileNet solution. Once that system is set up and ready to go, we also connect it to the cache and migration server with its proxy functionality. We're changing the setting, and based on the new setting, the SAP system now is served up documents from the legacy source system for any of the old documents that have not been migrated, and will read and write new objects to the new target system. So from day one, even before we have migrated all the documents, we are already actively writing to the new target archiving system. If we are reading legacy documents, those are served up fully transparent to the user from the old legacy source system. Now, in the background, we can also use the migration server in its to shuffle documents from the source archiving system to the target archiving system. So this server here in the middle actually has two functions. It functions as a proxy to distribute calls between the new archiving system for writes mostly and read of new documents, and the old legacy system in the migration setup read only. At the same time, this server or another instance of that same server, more typically another instance of the same server with its functionality, would then copy documents from the source system to the target system. And as we move documents across, those documents would then be served up from the target system. So typically what happens is that we deploy a current date backwards approach, where we start with the most current documents in the system, start with those, bring those across, so that more and more read requests are actually serviced from the new target system. And as we progress in the background, older and older documents are moved over and added to the new target system until we get to the endpoint where all the documents have been migrated and there are 0 calls that are proxied over to the source archiving system. At this point, the source archiving system can safely be shut down. A few statistics, just as an overview. Typical archives, A2, A3, A4, were IXOS archives, link table entries, significant number of link table entries in the IXOS content server archive system. A5 with a much smaller number and a different type of documents here. Only 250,000 in an ailing in unstable SAP content server. A particular challenge that we can see here in this graphic, in this statistic, is that there are a certain number of links in the SAP link table. There is or was a larger number of documents in the actual IXOS system. There were a number of documents that were obviously test documents or have been archived with no remaining link connection in the SAP system. We were calling those extras documents that were in the archive system but not in SAP. There's also the reverse. There's sometimes documents that were not completely archived, were deleted in the archive, in the initial implementation process, or through past migration methods were actually lost. Typically, that happened to most customers in the past when they moved from optical archives to on physical CDs to an electronic magnetic disk-based archive. In some cases, platters could not be read, or portions of platters couldn't be read, which led to lost documents. And those were the ones that were in SAP in link tables, but were physically not present here in this example in the Ixos archive. That just sheds a little bit of light on what kind of scenarios and technical challenges you have to deal with when you do an archive. But the KGS system is particularly well suited to manage all these. Every single document that is migrated is carefully logged, and there is tables and document IDs that can be extracted from the system and can be verified and individually and confirmed that these documents in fact are not present in either one of the systems, and therefore can safely be documented and dismissed. About 2.8 million documents were migrated in this effort. The actual moving of documents took just 16 days from start to finish. The performance was not the fastest one we ever had with this particular project. The reason for that was that the target system, the FileNet system, is not particularly fast in accepting archiving requests from an SAP system. That is due to the multi-tier architecture structure in FileNet. There's multiple layers of web services that each request needs to pass through, which limits the number of requests you can send through per second. And the Ixos system, as well as the SAP content server, were on old hardware technology and therefore not as fast as you could be with newer hardware technology underneath. All migration was done without end user impact, and we look at, I mentioned already some of the challenges, a total of 2.8 million documents, which is about doubled if you consider the number of components for each document. Most of the time, documents have at least a data component and a note or info component. So in fact, there were over 5 million files that had to be moved, and it could be more depending on what the particular client situation is. We had to deal with an unstable SAP content server that had to be rebooted daily because there were memory leaks in the software, and the software is never updated, and it wasn't worthwhile the outage to actually update it. So the customer chose to instead reboot the server every night. That also presented a extreme challenge for us in the migration process, because the leak actually occurred with every document read. And if we were aggressively reading from the server many more documents than it was happening in the past. So that created quite a concern with the tech team. We were able to monitor the situation carefully and then tune the archiving process to the highest possible throughput point without jeopardizing the integrity of the system, without getting the SAP content server to collapse and safely push forward. In addition, we had to deal with a large number of documents that were stored as SAP Office objects. Those documents were partially in the SAP database, partially on Ixos, and we had to design a procedure to pull these documents out of the SAP database and then migrate them and store them in their future home, which was, in this case, the FileNet system. Going on, a few of the details of the project were sophisticated validation strategy against SAP and using an external application to prove the completeness of the process. What I used here was a MySQL database, which I deployed to just do configuration confirmation or migration confirmation, comparing link table entries against actual database entries for the respective archiving solution. So comparing link table entries against the Ixos database, link table entries against the SAP Content Server database, and then link table entries against what the migration tool was actually notifying me or recording, which documents it had touched and pushed to the other side. All that data allowed me to clearly document where each document was, which documents could not be found, as I mentioned before, because they weren't present in one of the source system. And we were able to present and create a full report at the end. We switched to a secured multi-level archive architecture with centralized storage that was part of the FileNet architecture. So that was kind of out of my hands, but it was a significant improvement over the previous solutions. We were able to add additional security layers with heightened SAP security and HTTPS setup. The actual cutover event, switching in and out the proxy services and the final archiving configuration, took less than an hour. So the end user impact was just that, an hour of time where the archive was not available for the end user. And that was scheduled for one of the SAP maintenance windows and became part of that configuration process. So from an end user perspective, there wasn't a single moment where they had an outage just due to this particular project. We provided this migration project with through our SolutionXchg project team, full SAP skills, open text skills, archiving skills, KGS skills, platform and database skills. We were able, with a number of dedicated experts, to bring all the necessary skills to the table, so there was no need to involve any partners or any other companies, even in this environment where we had 2 or 3 different products we were dealing with. As a result, we were tracking and supervising each batch. We were rerunning errors to eliminate timeouts and server response time issues, all functions and features of the KGS migration project. We spot checked the verification in each. We did a spot verification in each run. We did a visual check on a sample of valid documents and those documents that were reported as an error. We were confirming that valid documents would pull up correctly in the source and the target, and we were double checking that error documents could not be accessed in the source. All these results were documented in a migration report that could be filed and kept for future internal revisions or if there were any questions. Every single document is clearly logged, and there is a transactional record, including all okay or a specific error message that is attributed to this document, so that if there should be any question in the future from audits, or whether those be financial audits, HR audits, or any other internal audits or external audits to the company, every single document is accounted for and can be researched and can be proven in detail on what has been happening to this particular document. As an end user validation process, we recommended that after the cut over, there is a validation. End users should run some particular tests on their business scenarios. Single documents should display correctly. We wanted to make sure that the legacy archives are kept available for a defined period of time for backup purposes. Once the migration was complete, the legacy archives were shut down, and we were verifying that everything was still completely operational, just to make sure that there is no documents that weren't brought over, or any business scenarios that relied on direct communication to the archiving products instead of going through the appropriate proxy services. As a summary, the migration was completed with no end user impact. Full counts were verified. All databases and validation files were added to the documentation, and we provided a comprehensive Word document detailing all project phases. Statistics and counts are available in spreadsheets, and the legacy systems could be shut down as planned. And not to draw this out too long, we have another case study on a manufacturing client who also did an archiving migration. I'll point out some of the differences. Here, the trigger was an outsourcing to India. The cost pressure prompted the switch, and the client decided to move to, in this case, a KGS content server product, mainly because of the significantly reduced hardware cost, the hardware maintenance cost, the operations cost, database cost, storage cost, and total cost of ownership. The annual maintenance cost for the legacy product was very high, and we were able to significantly reduce that maintenance cost by switching to a KGS content server for storage product. A little bit about the product, Migration4-ArchiveLink. It was specifically developed to satisfy SAP archiving requirements. It is, in my eyes, and I have over 20 or close to 25 years experience in this market, it is the best available migration solution by far that I know of. It is superior to any ABAP-based solutions because it does not have any impact on your SAP system. The migration takes place without involving SAP. The documents are not pumped through SAP. They're not temporarily on the SAP server, neither as a data stream nor as physical files. Everything happens in the background. It's a very unique approach and is able to cope with the highest performance requirements. We have tested out a max of over 2 million documents per day, per 24-hour day. And we were able to consistently do that with 2 or 3 migration servers that were running in parallel. The solution is 100% compliant with all the SAP standards, therefore really a best fit solution, and it is certified for various SAP ArchiveLink and BCILM interfaces. In this particular project, difference here, way more documents, 29 million documents, which were moved in less than 8 weeks. That is 8 weeks from moving document number 1 until moving document number 29 million and some. Of course, there's a preparation time, there's a project setup time, but the actual physical migration of documents, 29 million documents, took about 8 weeks. Close to zero business impact. There were, in this particular case, multiple document formats that had to be supported. The previous solution was just working with PDF documents. Here, the client had a variety of documents, including some unusual imaging formats. For example, grayscale images, inverse images that were white white font color on a black background. The client had over the years, and this was a 18-year-old archive, accumulated a variety of scanning products, scanners, and also just naturally occurred a number of errors in their processes, which required us to supply a new viewing tool as well in the migration process, and the need to smooth out some of those imaging display challenges. As a benefit, we were able to cut the annual maintenance cost in half without incurring significant additional cost at the changeover. Not all situations can benefit from that. There is different cost structures and mixes involved in this particular situation. We were able to build a use case in this particular way. There were a number of other securities that were added due to the system during the changeover. We added security for World Wide Web access to the system, and we did a switch to administration-friendly VMware from physical servers. In addition, we had to verify over 20 plus different business applications so that they would successfully work with a new scanning solution the customer chose to implement at the same time, and that we had to verify the new security settings with. The summary from the point of view of SAP KGS Migration4-ArchiveLink in an SAP environment. Switchover can happen with a click once the new archive is there. Obviously, scanning needs to be there, viewing needs to be talked about, servers need to be in place. Once all that is in place and is tested out in the test environment, we can tackle the actual migration task. There is a seamless parallel operation of the legacy and new production archive, as shown in the graph I showed before. There is full rollback functionality in case of any unrecoverable error situation. The legacy archive is not touched or changed in any way during the migration process. So that in itself and with its backup mechanism serves as a full backup throughout the migration process. Obviously, for the new archive, due diligence is applied and new backup mechanisms that are suitable for the new archiving solution are deployed and continue their operation. There is no need for a separate full system backup as we are not changing or modifying or impacting the legacy system in any way. Format conversion and compression are available on the fly, which is something to consider in the project design. The migration runs on autopilot most of the time, especially once the tuning is determined. Of course, we need to make sure that we're not overtaxing the legacy system. We need to find out how fast the migration can actually run. The tool is capable of running multiple threads at a time. It can have up to 32 parallel threads, that is, read commands active at a particular time to the legacy archive system and write commands to the target archiving system through the migration tool. We are logging every single move in a database that is part of the KGS migration product, and that is installed automatically under the hood to help and facilitate the process. In addition, I like to run, just for statistic reasons and verification reasons, a MySQL database on the side. It has to be a database and can't be just a spreadsheet, because a spreadsheet cannot handle the millions of data entries. So database is the only tool that is capable of doing those large logic comparisons, and the appropriate SQL statements and tool are part of what we bring to the project and use for the migration statistics. So from a business application scenario, using the standardized SAP ArchiveLink interface for managing the migration allows us to change the archiving sublayer without affecting any of the business applications. The AP application and configuration remains the same. HR application remains the same. The SD application remains the same. You get the drift. There is no SAP business process customizing changes necessary. Sometimes we do have web process scenarios that have to change because customers do web URL programming that bypass SAP function modules and go directly to the archive server and their web services. If that is the case, some of these scenarios, IP addresses need to change. Again, the interface is the same because it's a KGS interface. Unless there's proprietary programming against the archive system's proprietary web interface, even that can be handled with relative minimal effort. The one client I was talking about is Armstrong World Industries. We actually, by now, did a second migration for them. Just recently finished that at the turn at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. Armstrong has split into two entities, and we had to take the 28 million documents and extract those that were part of the second entity. So we did actually a split of the data based on SAP, who did the SAP split project. They gave us a list of document IDs that were belonging to one company and not the other. So we were able to start a secondary migration project about 4 or 5 years after the first one to provide that data for the separated out business unit. Another large archiving project was done for Procter & Gamble, where we replaced a global archive, a global open text archive, with a KGS archiving solution. This KGS archive, consistent of just 4 servers, 2 test and 2 production servers, is servicing 25 productive SAP instances. The total migration effort was 28 terabyte for this particular migration. A smaller project, but nevertheless very interesting, was Justin Brands, a Berkshire Hathaway company in Texas. We did an archive replacement. We migrated mostly data archiving files and built a custom link interface to existing Adobe forms that were an output or were in the file system and were an output to the file system by the SAP application and were supposed to be migrated to the archive, which we did as a custom add-on. Selected customers that use KGS solutions today: Allianz, BASF, BMW has a large-scale implementation. They replaced most of their SAP content servers. Hugo Boss, HP themselves is using the product. Coca-Cola, Harrods London, Lufthansa, Nalco in the US, Nestle, Oracle is integrated, has an integration with their Oracle archiving system. Shell, SAP for ILM functionality is using the KGS products. Ricola, PepsiCo for specialty application, and so on. The list is long. There's many large name customers who use the product today. It's fully certified. Latest certification year, February 20th, 2017, just recently, 2 months ago, for S4HANA, S4BCAL 7.4, showing that the KGS Content Server product works with the latest SAP S4HANA software. Why KGS software? KGS is a very safe choice in the SAP world. There's solid experience with the team. The team, KGS and SolutionXchg, has been developing SAP document management archiving solutions since 1969. Sorry, 1996. 69 would be quite some time, but I don't think SAP, even R2, was around then. SAP used and uses KGS as its worldwide solution partner for SAP ArchiveLink certifications. KGS has worked with many different applications that were used to store documents, and has certified those archives against SAP's very stringent requirements. There is a very flexible professional team in place with excellent skills in SAP document integration. There is not much this team hasn't seen in terms of requirements. There is a high-level SAP expertise. More than 30 SAP certifications were handled successfully in the worldwide business operation with clients in the US, in Canada, Africa, Australia, UK, Netherlands, and so on. SolutionXchg does business process analysis, SAP module customizing, project management, enterprise content management, more. We're supporting products by XFT, by KGS, by Eternity, by PBS, and TJC. Building expertise and project management capability to help a client integrate all these products on a daily basis. Why SolutionXchg? SolutionXchg is presenting innovative German software products to the US market. We're an exclusive KGS reseller in the US, strong SAP archiving document management expertise, and specialized on low-cost, high-quality, high ROI SAP add-on solutions from selected vendors. We have over 18 years of experience in SAP implementation market, and we have done SAP document integrations in various modules, HR, FI, SD, MM, and built solutions for the surrounding business processes. Why KGS Migration4-ArchiveLink? All KGS software can run as VM images, so there's easy snapshot backups, dynamic resource allocation based on the need of the migration products and services. During high volume migration, we might require additional memory and additional performance from the VM server, which immediately is freed up again when the migration slows down or is coming to a close. High scalability, multiple instances on multiple servers, and other advantages like interactive load balancing through the number of parallel streams we're using. The migration process can happen in parallel to all existing business operations, and there's absolutely no impact on SAP business process scenarios. If you have any further questions, please let me know. My name is Jochen Hager. You can reach me at my desk line 484-356-1264 or by calling my mobile phone 484-716-1210. Thank you very much for your interest. This concludes our webinar for today. And let's go to the questions and see if we have any questions that came up through the questions panel. Here are some of the questions I have here on the question panel. What source and target archiving products are supported? We're supporting all SAP ArchiveLink compliant products as source or as target. The solution is purely using the SAP ArchiveLink interface, and because we're using it to read and write, even if we're writing to the KGS archive product, we are supporting any type of combination of archiving solutions. What is the overall time needed for migration? The fastest we have done is 2 million documents per day. That could probably be increased, but it's depending on the source and the target archive system performance. So if you have a multi-tier source architecture or multi-tier target architecture, then that might be improved. There is setup and preparation work, as well as documentation and validation work. Roughly, I would say in smaller projects, there might be more prep work necessary compared to the actual migration time. In average, I would say about the same amount of time that is used for the actual migration, the moving of documents. It has to be applied to preparation and documentation in the end. That is it. That is the last question we received. And with that, I thank everybody very much for your attention. I hope you got some valuable insights and data points out of today's presentation and documentation. And until next time, thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.